Hey guys, and look, you can see us. We're on video. We have finally made it. It is 100 turns later. We are finally Meeple to Meeple is at episode 100. Thank you so much for all of you who have put up with our shenanigans for 100 episodes. Now you're in trouble. This is where the real trouble begins. You have to look at us.
You got to look at us, yeah.
As always, I remain PJ, yes.
And I've made it to 100 episodes. I am Gareth, with a few stand-ins along the way.
A few stand-ins. And we've got some special guests for this segment of the episode. We've got a lot. We've got a lot of stuff to fill in, a lot of content. So we'll get right to it. We have Craig and Becky from Get Into Games on Air. Probably my second favorite podcast behind our own, of course. Craig and
That's
Becky.
not allowed.
How are you?
Hello. We're good, thank you. Thank you for having us on this momentous occasion, episode 100.
Thanks for joining us.
66 episodes ago, you guys were on episode 34. I believe you joined us to talk about launching your own podcast. Was that long ago?
Yeah.
When is? I don't know when that was. It feels 18 months.
I don't know.
I'm going to hazard a guess.
Yeah.
Quite a while. So this part
Yeah.
of the podcast, this very first bit is, I guess, we're going to talk about what we've learned along the way. So 100 episodes later, from those early days of using our iPhones to record. If you go listen to episode 1, you'll know what I mean. Through to, today recording on the video.
Yeah.
So the world, it's like going from it's not from black and white to color. It's going from radio to full. Well, it's not quite 4K. We're a bit cheap. We're not paying for the 4K mode. We're paying for 720p, unless anybody wants to sponsor us, and then we'll upgrade. So it's all about reflecting, I guess, on what we've done in terms of moving through that podcast journey. But obviously, you guys started your own podcast along the way as well. So we'll be keen to hear what you guys have done. Do you want to, Craig? Do you want to introduce your podcast quickly, so anyone who hasn't listened?
We are Get Into Games on Air, a podcast about board games and the people who play them.
Nice.
Sponsored by Rent Shuffle and Roll. If you use the code GITG50, you'll get your 5 month rental with Rent Shuffle and Roll. Anyway,
Say advertise.
you said introduce.
That's fine.
Right?
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah. Basically, I think it was spawned out of we would just play board games or sit after we've played a board game and just talk about it. Talk about it for ages, or we just sit there and be like, "This game's this, that," and talk about like topics within board games and themes and everything. And we're like, "Why are we just talking about this? Why aren't we just recording it? Because there's so much here. Someone might want to hear."
I think we did it in the car as well. Like we would go on a long journey and then have a big discussion about certain elements.
Visit my mum in London and just drive for 2 hours and just start talking about different games and different things, and it just kind of bled into Get Into Games on Air, which is essentially just us just rambling on about games, occasionally having guests on to talk about games, and like the big UK board game Proto Hype, which has all the prototype games coming to Kickstarter. We've managed to meet up with quite a few of them and build up quite a bit of a relationship with them, so we get a lot of those guys before their Kickstarter launches to have like little chats. Yeah, it's been really good, and it is just that we have regular segments, like silly little segments, and as everyone who listens knows, Becky plans everything. I plan nothing. And
it's really annoying.
Fly by the seat of my pants. Annoying. It's good fun though.
I've written down in terms of the highlights that we generally don't do scripts either, which generally means it's a little bit. It is we fly by the seat of our pants. Yeah. Generally, but we have got better, and we do write out maybe 4 or 5 bullet points just to keep PJ on track.
I think that's important. It is important to kind of have something like, we're going to start with this. We're going to do, because we'll always do we were generally doing like, what's hit our table this week, so we can talk about the games that we've played. Then we'll either have like a topic or a subject or a guest, I guess, and then we'll end with like a board game menu, and then sort of end the podcast there.
But I used to plan it to the point at which, like, I would write down the publishers and the artists and all of this, and then you would just rock up, and I'd be like, have lists and lists and lists.
Yeah, you can tell when Becky's going on. She'll start saying, "This game designed by this with this amazing art by this person," and I'm like, Have you played Seven Wonders? Game.
I don't bother.
I'm sitting here with my phone or another tab open on BoardGame Geek, doing the same, but doing it live, trying to read, but which of course when you're recording just onto audio, no one knows. But here I'm.
Yep.
There's no hiding now. If I start wandering over here, I'm looking elsewhere. What about like technical stuff? Like, I mean, we started off on a phone recording using Podbean, I think it was, PJ, wasn't it? That's where we started.
Podbean.
Using their mobile app, and then we quite quickly realised that the audio quality wasn't right, and then we bought mics and we bought headphones, which has definitely helped us. How about you guys? What did you start with?
Well,
were you pros from the start?
We've always had this snowball
thing.
Not plug, but if they do want to sponsor either podcast, I'm happy. All ears. But yeah, the snowball is quite fine. It picks us both up all right.
It works well.
Yeah, it's quite nice. But we've always had that. We started delving into video, so we've got like I had an old webcam that's better than the ones on the laptop kind of thing. But we never really, the microphone we sorted out. But
we just have to work out how close I have to sit to the microphone, because you're much louder than me.
One of us is a lot louder than the other. And that's the thing. So sometimes I do listen back and I'll hear me suddenly go and like...
And I'm like a mouse in the background.
Yeah. We spoke to one of our friends who lives down the road, Dale. He was listening once and I shouted his name once on an episode, just randomly. And he was like, I was driving. Thank you. I almost crashed the car.
We definitely have episodes where I'm sitting there going like, PJ's really loud, like come back a little bit further away, and I have to get really close.
Yeah,
I think we've generally worked out now that because particularly not in the same room. Trying to get the balance right is quite tricky.
That is the most difficult. That is probably the single greatest challenge is for us doing this 6 hours apart. That's been our biggest challenge, I think. Whereas you guys are sitting right next to each other.
Yeah.
Which, as episode 75, where we did it live, sitting next to each other. I kind of wish it was video, because I think that was one of our best episodes.
See my highlight bit for later. The fact that we actually sat together and recorded. It does make podcasting a lot easier when you're losing that connection just because of the time difference. And you guys, so we moved to Riverside, hosting wise, I don't know when now, maybe 50 episodes ago.
Was it 50?
Maybe. I have to go and check. But of course, we lost a lot of stats along the way because we moved from Podbean to Riverside. But then Riverside got bought by Spotify, or maybe even then had been. And over the last maybe 2 months, the features have just grown and grown on that site. So from using it for video editing, audio editing, some of the features like on the screen today with names is all relatively new. Do you guys use much of Riverside? We should be sponsoring us as well, shouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We've always used. I think because we spoke, and I was wondering what you guys used and stuff like that, just because of the interesting parts of it. And we use Riverside. We use Riverside and we use Podbean. We use the both. Obviously, Podbean to put it up on the platform, and then Riverside to do the recording. So it'd be interesting to do different things. I think sometimes it's having it on one and then downloading it and then moving it to another one to put it up. And especially with Google Podcasts changing over to YouTube Podcasts.
Yeah.
That's kind of messed up a little bit of the kind of reach, I think, which has been a bit of a thing that we've had to adapt to and change.
I know nothing of this side. I just do the podcast.
It took us a while to get it onto Apple as well. That took like long.
They had to verify.
That took like a month.
Yeah, you got to put codes in and verify, and that one is much more tricky.
From an actual recording side of things, we've found that Riverside is pretty straightforward. It's a nice and easy system to use, which is good for me because the easier the better. Really, just give me something simple.
I think now on Riverside you can just send it straight to Spotify. I mean, that it generally is all relatively encased in one platform now.
So if you're thinking about a podcast, consider Riverside for all your podcast needs.
I think if I looked for it, I'd even find some audio that says Riverside FM, but I'll have to find that for later.
Yeah.
Just in case they're looking for, we're looking for sponsorship. Hey, you guys want to come on here? Riverside Podcast.
Riverside FM. So it goes. And then I think the last bit I've got is, I guess, we've got holidays. So I've been sick. We've missed episodes because we've both been in different places. Do you guys always record together?
Yeah.
We tried to do it every week, but we found that with work schedules and bits and pieces, it's not always possible. So now I think we try to keep to at least every fortnight.
Yeah. Because we don't I salute you for being able to stick it to half an hour. We do not. We just go and it'll end, promise. But when, I don't know. Our titles really should be how long a road trip you need to take.
Yeah. That's quite a good idea. It's like, how long's your workout? Is it 30 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, 1 hour plus?
Because I think the first episode we were like, an hour's good. And then I think we had an episode with John Gracie and that was like 2 hours. And it was like, okay. So some of them do go on and it depends on the subject because we can just, you'll probably find that you could talk about the subject for days, but you're we can just move on. Whereas we'll just go, let's talk. We're going to talk. So because our podcast is longer, I think it works every other week. Doesn't matter as much because then it's like, okay, you've listened to half of it that week. You can listen to the other half next week or however you want to listen to it.
For me, it's like therapy. So you have to get everything off your chest.
Yeah.
And then then you can stop.
I love it. Yeah.
We played Catan. Let's not go there.
Because I think we were 30 minutes pretty good for a good maybe 50 episodes or so, and then we've kind of got to 45. This is going to be about an hour and a half. I think this episode.
We keep it to under an hour. Pretty solid.
Yeah. But we go back to when me and PJ first met, and when I was in Instagram Lives back in COVID lockdown days. I think my longest episode was 3 hours. I mean, who watches an Instagram Live for 3 hours? Maybe 3.5. I mean, we did just talk. What else was there to do apart from that was chatting? So I can see how you can just start chatting. PJ, anything from you on podcasts?
I want to say about that original Instagram Live, which is coming up November 1st is when that aired.
Wow, you remember this?
So I do, and so our friendship will have reached life-changing. So our friendship would have started. That was 2021, November 1st. So 3 years, real soon. So I'm sitting here talking to you on Instagram Live. Katie, my wife, is sitting on the couch there, and I'm looking for visual cues from her that I need to shut up and cut it off. And if she says I can keep going, so I blew your goal out of it. If I remember, everyone's like, "Can I be longer? Like, can you go longer than the previous one?" And I think after me, you kind of abandoned that. Like, no one can talk longer than PJ. That's not true.
I think you broke me. I thought I can't ever do this again. I guess November would have been because they kind of ran to about to December, January, February next year. I think. Yeah. Okay. It's good.
I broke you so much that we're on episode 100. We're launching our YouTube channel, right? Like that's how broken you are.
Oh, good point. Make sure you like and subscribe. Yes. Like and subscribe for more content every week. Or maybe two if we go for an hour and a half. Who knows?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please do.
So how do you find having guests on your podcast? Because we've had some really great guests and then we've had some not so great guests. And it's hard to manage the people on the podcast sometimes, I think. And because we know people personally, but then trying to get across on a podcast is actually quite a difficult thing to do. How do you find managing that?
Who's going first?
You want me to take this?
I'll take it. We might both take it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see whether I'm going to say one bit. I think you'll do the other.
Okay.
So I think those episodes do become a bit more scripted. So I guess we do similar things to most of the lives, which is it's supposed to be relaxed, it's chilled, like it is just a conversation. And if we mess up, we cut and edit, and no one's going to know. So looking through, I've got a list. I mean, we've had a mixture of everyone from Instagram people to friends of PJs. You've had some friends from the States who've added on.
Yep.
And then more recently, I think we found that when it was me and PJ and another guest, sometimes that's too many. 4 guests was definitely too much. I think if we have 4 of you on the screen. So we actually found sometimes it was better with PJ on his own with a guest, just for the dialogue.
Yeah.
And two of us try and it's like three's a crowd. Sometimes we found. I don't know what you thought, PJ, to that.
So I don't agree with anything you just said.
Oh, this is controversial.
Episode 100 and the final episode of
That is the end.
That's good. Okay, so the reality is that 3 is the perfect number. You don't, and Gareth and I learned this because we had like 2 or 3 episodes where we had more than 3 people on. That doesn't work at all. But 3 is okay for the flow. It works if it's Gareth and I and 1 guest, or if it's myself and 2 guests, or
Yes,
Gareth and
that
2
is.
guests.
You are correct.
That works.
That is what I meant. It's because we had 2 people on the show.
What I'm hearing here is there's
Yeah.
4 people here.
No.
This is not
But
working.
you're one. But you're together. You're all together. It's when you had. Yes, when PJ had Hannah and we had Alex. That was better with 2 guests. Yeah, 3.
Right.
3 did
Because
work. That is correct.
You want 3 voices. If you get more, and they've done a lot of research, numerology and all that about how the number 3 works in all kind of settings other than an interview. I also, in my head, when I have a guest on, I kind of take off my board gamer hat, and we all know I've got a lot of hats, most of which I purchased while I was in England. I put on my journalist hat. I get, like my persona changes when we have a guest on, depending on the guest. If it's a designer or someone from the industry, I definitely become a journalist, and I'm like, I'm going to ask questions and I'm going to keep this going and moving. But I also am really skilled at improvisation, so I understand the importance of keeping the conversation going and allowing for your guest to look good. And I took some theater classes when I was an undergrad at LSU, and one of the rules was make sure your partner looks good. Number 1, always be seen. Number 2, make sure your partner looks good. So I always want to make sure I'm heard. Now I'm seen because we're on video, but make sure I was heard, make sure my partner looked good. And that's always governed me whenever I'm in conversation. So, yeah.
I think it's just more difficult than it looks like. You see people doing podcasts and videos and you think, oh yeah, that's easy. They're just having a chat. But I think it's actually like there is a skill to it and getting the best out of your guests. That's something that
absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why when Gareth and I started this project, we're like, let's do a podcast. Like, because we talked about, Gareth approached me. He wanted to do something, but we didn't know what that was. And it ended up being a podcast. And doing research, there's like, what is it, Gareth? There's 2,000 different board game podcasts.
There's loads. I mean, there's so many. Yeah, I mean,
and most of them have like 5-6 episodes and they fell apart because this is difficult work. Yeah. So I don't know if anything I just said helped you, but that's what I do when I'm talking to a guest.
Yeah. I also want to clarify that we didn't have bad guests.
Yeah,
just
terrible.
No,
Worst
I meant
horrendous.
that it's difficult to manage the medium between people and that what you said about getting the best out of people. I think we're still working on that because that's actually quite tricky.
Yeah, well, I think our first guest was Gozia.
Yep.
Episode 20. So 27 episodes into we had the first guest on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a right run of them. 32, 33, 34, 35. And then we had a massive break to 69 when we let Nick on the show, and that was chaos. So
we did some guests, and then or had some guests, not did some guests.
No.
And then we actually missed just talking to each other. We were like, we want to get back to just talking with each other.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, because it's a nice blend, and I think it got to a point where there was a lot of like convention and a lot of Kickstarter things, and a lot of our guests became like Huff No More and people that were putting their games out there.
We missed talking,
but yeah, just be able to talk about board games, because sometimes people want to listen about board games. They don't want to listen about one specific game or subject, I guess.
Yep.
What's your most popular episodes? What stuff do you enjoy talking about the most?
I think our most popular was like some of our earlier ones, definitely. But I've enjoyed when we've had more of a subject that we've lent into. So when we talked about like our stats and stuff like that, that's always a fun one. What we're aiming to do in the new year, that was a good one. Convention stuff is always fun because there's so much to talk about, and there's a lot that people want to listen to. I think our UKGE and Aircon episodes, our Aircon episode probably was the most viewed, only because, humble brag, I got a voice memo from Rodney Smith after the episode, so that's why that's going to top it for me. But yeah, like UKGE episodes, they're always good fun. I do enjoy having guests. I enjoy talking about like picking their brains and like working out. And we always like to dig in and be like, and so this is your game that you're bringing out. Okay, that's great. What else are you planning?
We want the like
what do you
insider
do?
scoop. Yeah.
That's the stuff I enjoy. It's been talking to designers about what else do they play and getting, I guess, behind the screen of what they're actually up to. Yeah.
And we'll always do like fun, like quick fire questions, and we get our guests to always do a menu, so they'll always come back to us with, so they have stuff that we can really dive into, because it's fun to talk about the game and try and essentially we're selling a game, we're selling that game on Kickstarter, which is, it's all an ad essentially, but it's nice to also get that personal, the human side of it, and to see the human element. So I mean, I don't think there's a particular episode that I've said is my favorite of all.
My favorite was the John Gracie episode.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun, but that's because it went on for like 5 hours.
I am trying not to take. I'm trying not to take that personally, speaking as a former guest.
Becky will do that because she can't take turns. That's the problem, you see. She'll always say...
I think it's because I didn't know anything about John Gracie before we did the podcast. And then I asked loads of questions to find out stuff about him and his wife and where they were starting. And it was truly interesting to me. So I was like really passionate about it.
So you're saying that PJ's boring and not interesting?
Yep. I can't win here.
I'll just stop. I
think the conversations that the four of us, because my wife was with me when we stayed with you, we had really great conversation. I kind of wish we would have recorded that, right?
Yeah.
It was really good conversation, but that's okay.
It's
boring.
I always find with podcasts, we finish, we'll stop the record button and then go, why didn't we say that? Quick, set back up, let's record again. Like, I find that as well. But I find that listening to you guys sometimes. Like, you'll ask a question on the podcast and I'll be like, oh, but I've got so much of an opinion on that. I really want to just let you know my opinion. But you've already recorded it. I don't need to say my opinion anymore because...
Write it in the comments.
In the comments.
Sometimes we stop recording and then we carry on, particularly if we've got guests on. And sometimes we talk for another hour with a guest.
Yeah.
Which we should have just recorded, but it's because we get onto other topics and we get into stuff that, maybe not so board game related, but the dialogue is really good.
I think that Gareth and I have learned that that's the real meat that interests everyone, including ourselves, and we let that conversation go more than just one big advertisement on the game that they're about to launch on Kickstarter. I'm thinking about, and I'm sure you are too, is when we interviewed Matt and Zara from Kavango, because we talked with them for like another hour, and I think at one point there was a moment where you made me we re-recorded a question I asked them, and then through some magical editing by my partner Gareth.
Thanks.
No
one knew this. I can't remember what it was. It was about, I think it's about Botswana, wasn't it? And
I think so.
Was it about the where the river flows or something? It was something.
It had to do with the river delta, because Louisiana is a major river delta.
Yeah, it was something along that.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
Okay. So anything else about podcasts, or should we let our guests go?
I don't have anything else.
Do you have any more advertising, Craig, to do? Do you want to a quick plug before make sure everyone's got the name of your podcast?
No. If you're listening to this episode in 2025, I've heard that there's a very good T-shirt manufacturer called Shirts and Merch that you should definitely be checking out, specifically in 2025. So I'll come back to that in a few months.
Future self-publishing.
Yep. I love it. That's great.
Okay.
Wow. Well, inside the scoop.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the inside scoop.
I'm hosting a giveaway for a board game 2 Meeple to Meeple's hearts at the moment, close to their hearts, for the Obsession expansion with the metal coins. So if you're heading over to my Boardtober 2024 extravaganza over on Instagram and you enter that, if you comment Meeple to Meeple in the comments, I will give you 5 extra entries.
Wow.
Ooh.
They're going to cut that out.
You're going to cut that out?
Yeah, I'm going to leave that in. Well, leave it in. Leave it in because we have a special guest shortly all about Obsession, which I think we've worked out. We've talked about Obsession in 90% of our episodes.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you have product placed Obsession.
Thank you.
In the center of the screen. I mean, who would have known? That's perfect.
No, exactly.
Yeah, it's absolutely spot on. So, Craig and Becky, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for celebrating episode 100 with us.
Congratulations again.
Thank you very much. And look forward to hearing more from Get Into Games on air.
Thank you.
So, I guess, PJ, that was a great summary of our podcast journey, and chatting to Craig and Becky about their journey was pretty satisfying. It's good to see 2 other fellow podcasters with some of the similar thoughts and challenges that we have. Now I can see behind you Obsession. I mean, I'm the only one with Obsession, not behind me. And Obsession was behind Becky and Craig. So
it was.
So I tried to get you on a call over the last couple of weeks to do a little bit of a surprise, but you had work, and like we mentioned earlier, we had a bit of a challenge on timescale. So I decided to just go and chat to Dan Hallagan myself.
What?
I know. And it was supposed to be a 15-minute chat. But if you've met Dan, and we've had Dan on the show back in 57? So I decided to catch up with Dan as a special section. So we're going to cut to a minute. So it's 35 minutes. So we're going to play it here. If you're into Obsession, then there's an update about hurricanes and pirates and current shipping challenges. We cover Parlor, which is that, if he spoke to us previously, it's a trick-taking game based in the Obsession theme. There's some artwork shared, so Dan shares his screen. I think really privileged to see some art. And then there's a couple of, I guess, not Kickstarter editions for Obsession. One is an all-combined playmat that Dan talks about, and a combined rulebook, which again,
nice.
We were talking about like when we had Cajun Con. And someone said, come teach Obsession. And I came over and I was like, I haven't played this for like a few months. And there's 3 different rule books and people have put everything in. Having the combined rule book, it just sounds like a piece of art. Anyway, here is Dan Hallagan, designer of Obsession, the most spoken about board game on this podcast. For 90% of the time. Do enjoy. So, welcome to episode 100, a kind of secret special interview with one of our most talked about games designers, Dan Hallagan. So welcome, Dan, to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And PJ kind of knows I was talking to somebody, but didn't quite know what I was up to. But as we have talked about Obsession, I reckon in 90% of the episodes, from everything from our favourite games to we spoke to you just about a year ago when you launched the characters expansion, we have segued Obsession into roll and writes. We've talked about it from a Nemesis perspective, right through to the favourite games that we play all the time. I thought it'd be a good chance to catch up after a year on how the character expansion has gone for Obsession, which I know is in the middle of shipping, and then we can spend a little bit of time talking about maybe some new stuff and what you get from podcasts. How a year on, you funded and you're in the middle of shipping. How are things in the Obsession world of logistics and fulfillment?
Well, hurricanes are plaguing me right now. So
I bet.
Hurricanes and pirates, because my 2 biggest areas where I'm shipping containers of games and coins is obviously Europe and the Americas, mostly North America. And because of the dangers of going through the Suez Canal, all those ships coming from China are going around the Cape of Good Hope and taking the long way. Yeah. So when I had games arriving in Australia in late August, early September, I get your shipment to the UK arriving mid-October because of the long trip. So that's pain point number 1. Pain point number 2 is that my stuff has to go through the Panama Canal, which has got some real logistic problems coming to the Americas to get to my Florida warehouse where Quartermaster Logistics does my U.S. fulfillment, where I have 5,000 backers. And they just had a hurricane go through, Hurricane Helene, and now they have a Hurricane Milton. Just a couple of weeks later, which tells me HIJKL, there were 4 tropical storms in between the 2 hurricanes in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So these ships are out there bouncing around, and I expect about a 2-week delay, maybe a little longer. And we'll probably be shipping or fulfilling in Europe and the U.S. simultaneously in 3rd to 4th week of October.
Yeah, I mean, I guess those things you just can't. Well, I know they're predicting the storm, but it's out of your control. I mean, I mean, just watching it now, just the impact is incredible. And I've seen people in Asia and Australia starting to receive their coins and the games, and there's lots of positive comments coming in. So, I guess UK will see it maybe mid-November, like you say, over 2 or 3 weeks.
I think end of October.
End of October.
UK is going to get it first because Spiral Galaxy is my European distributor.
Great fulfillment. Yeah.
They will drop right to the UK, and then they'll hit Europe. Sorry, European folks, but the further away you are from your fulfillment partner, the longer it takes. So I think you'll get them in October, probably late October.
That's not long. I cannot wait to see it. And positive news. Any other challenges since we spoke to you a year ago in terms of taking that project from, I guess, the Kickstarter to now, apart from fulfillment? Has it all gone smooth, or was anything?
Just the fact that I moved after 35 years in Ohio. I moved to Utah, in relatively remote location of Utah, where I couldn't ship. I don't know if you have things called pods. They're basically, you can be moving and you can fill up like a half of a semi-trailer container, and they'll take it to wherever you're going. I couldn't do that because I'm in a remoter area.
Oh, wow.
So I had to drive out twice with stuff while I was doing the art and the fulfillment and the graphic design for characters and trying to develop the cooperative mode. I was doing that out of my garage in Ohio because I was renovating my house for sale. And then I was periodically driving 2,200 miles to Utah, flying back, catching up on email. So those were logistic problems, but I surmounted those. I got most of it done in Ohio before I officially moved to Utah. And but otherwise, I'm real pleased. What I really like, I think designers tend to want to go to deluxe editions. I make a great game, luckily, and then why not turn it into some monster box? I got Foundations of Rome.
Yes, I know
to
the
me
box.
For my Kickstarter. The box is a cube. It's a 12 by 12 by 12 cube. And I actually have pivoted from thinking that way to trying to think small. So the characters, I made it really tightly packed and small, and chose not to do punch boards, which I think would add too many tiles and dilute the mechanics of the market that works today.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sort of leaning in that direction because I've got a lot of big games. I just can't get the gumption up to get on the table and start to dig through everything that's in there. I think I'm going smaller, is my thinking. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, everything behind me. This is my office spare room. Behind me is all the big boxes because they take so much space now that I've moved everything. Everything behind me is, Scythe, Dwellings, Tangard, and Wingspan. They're all the big boxes. They take up so much space. I've made its own area, but they are full of stuff that I don't really need.
Yeah.
So small boxes is all good news. And there's I guess with the end of that coming, this fulfillment, what's next for both Obsession or for you as a designer?
So with Obsession, I think characters is the last significant piece.
Mm-hmm.
As it relates to gameplay.
Yeah.
Because I think keep adding bloat can make it a challenge to get to the table. And so I think what's needed, I think Obsession needs to be supported, but I think what's needed is that if you haven't played Obsession in 6 months and you got some friends coming over and you've got good memories, warm memories of having played it with other groups back in the day, and now you go to your Kallax and you look and you've got 5 boxes there. Or even if you fit everything into the one box, which I try to make happen, you got 5 rule books in there. And you've got to sit down in order to reintegrate the expansions in your head to the base game. You've got 5 rule books to refresh your memory on. And where do you look? So I think the absolute fundamental, and the people who have those expansions, or the ones that are communicating this to me, is a universal rule book. Is one rule book, very carefully cross-referenced and tabbed, so that if you have successfully fit everything into my main box, you'll have one rule book. You'll be able to pull the parts out, and there'll be one game. They won't be 5 games. It'll be one game. And I've reached out to someone who knows Shakespeare's adage, which is brevity is the soul of wit, which has never been in my vocabulary. And he's going to make sure that universal rulebook is just the rules.
Okay.
If you want thematics, you can keep your glossary. And I'm debating on whether I want to put like a glossary in the back of that universal rulebook. I don't think so, because I don't want to lift the lid. So I'm thinking if you just keep the glossary, you just want to know the rules and be able to find it quick. You pull out a promotional tile for example, the still room, which allows you to double use a servant. I want you to be able to go to that book and go, promotional tiles, alphabetized, still room, this is what I do. Right now, you got to go on almost a game of its own, a quest into my box to find that rule. And I don't want that to happen because it might not get to the table.
Yeah,
so
we had PJ visit us back in March, April time, and we had 2 tables. We had a little convention. 2 teams were playing Obsession, and they said, Gareth, come over. And I was like, okay, there's 5 rule books. Right, let's just go back to basics. But again, it's just remembering it. Even though we play it a lot, a universal rule book, like you say, well structured in those tabs. If you can go to a tile reference, you don't need the glossary as much as you say. It's it would be a huge benefit and a good addition.
And then I think a component aspect, and what I hope to do in maybe a late spring, early summer Kickstarter, is the rule book. But one thing I'm going to do is that rule book will be available online as a PDF free of charge. If I know our hobby, most people are going to want the physical rule book. But I don't want to make people pay for in a Kickstarter a rule book that I should be providing already, right? So that'll be available. But the spiral bound would be one part of that Kickstarter. The other is now you've got a bunch of boards. You got a sideboard, you got the main board, you got the round track. And so I want to make a neoprene playmat that incorporates all the boards. Now this would violate getting everything in the box, because you should roll up a neoprene playmat when you store it. But I can give a separate tube, and what that would do is that would allow you to just lay out. And my artist who is working with me on a new game that's also set in Victorian England, he's going to be commissioned to integrate Alderley Hall, where the Fairchilds are, with rural Derby, not Derbyshire, but actually outside the city of Derby is where the characters expansion characters reside. The Constable, the Reverend, and the Dowager, just outside the city. And actually Higby's, where you get the sloppy secondhand servants, they're in Derby, because no respectable servants are in Derby anyway. So he's going to integrate the whole thing. So it's going to go from Alderley Hall through pastoral scenes over to the edges of Industrial Revolution Derby, peaking on the one end with and make it a nice visual look, but give you only one thing you have to lay out. And
yeah. And when's that? That's next year.
I'd like to do those two.
Yep.
Because one thing I can do with those, I can have those done when I kickstart it for immediate fulfillment.
Okay.
Or
yeah.
Basically, I can hit production button.
Yeah.
The second I know my number.
Yeah.
X people backed it. I do X times 2 for retail. I hit my button and I there'll be no delay. It won't be like a year delay.
Yeah.
It'll be
much
like
easier.
a 4-month delay. Yeah.
Because I remember Jamie Stegmar did a spiral bound one for Scythe. Similar, they combined it all, and that was really nice. And that just sits inside the box. So it's make it relatively straightforward.
I just ordered that last week when we started our project. I haven't gotten it, but Jamie, I'm not going to plagiarize anything, but
it's a good reference.
Stand on the shoulders of giants. I don't need to reinvent everything. But I do appreciate what he's done with that. I want to get a look at it.
Yeah, it'd be very good. So Dan, what's coming up next? So you've done sort of rule references and some more, I guess, additional parts to Obsession in terms of that play map. What else have you got in the works?
So I think it's really important that I get another game out. It's like, I don't know if you know the band Uriah Heep. It was like a one-hit wonder. Had Stealing When I Should Have Been Dying. Now, I said that once to a Uriah Heep fan, and they got all upset. They're not a one-hit wonder. My point is that I've been blessed by Obsession. I couldn't be happier. I'm always amazed at its success because it was such a humble thing that I was making all the mistakes about. But I just have other game ideas. And, people say, hey, make Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies. Make a zombie obsession. Or, hey, do this. Make a legacy obsession, which I think I one day might do, but right now I've got a couple of games. And my first game was supposed to be a space game. And it's very different than anything that's out there. But I think I would be foolish to not lean into the people who are enjoying the very atypical theme. Mm-hmm. Because the other game is still set in Victorian England, but it's not a Euro. It's predominantly a trick-taking game.
Okay. Yes.
And my thought was Obsession did break down a lot of barriers. There's a lot of people who are not gamers, who are drawn by the theme, who've gotten into Obsession and realized that they can handle a level of heavy crunch that you find in Obsession. But there's still a lot of people who found that a little bit of a daunting experience. And what I want something lighter. And the reason trick-taking appeals to me, besides I really like trick-taking games, played a ton of Pinochle growing up. I played euchre badly growing up. I just never was good at euchre. I don't know why. People would be playing, and when I'd do a card, and everybody throw their cards in. I go, what the hell are you doing? They go, well, he's got this bower and this, and I go, But I do love trick-taking games, and so did Victorians. Victorians had endless trick-taking games. They had whist, they had casino, they had. I'm reading actually Pride and Prejudice now, and they referenced 2 new ones for me that I had. Was it Commerce? Anyway, they always in the parlor would play trick-taking games. So my upcoming game is called Parlor, and it is a trick-taking game, but it really departs at that point from just the standard accumulate 1 tricks with a partner type thing, which is the most common. And you're basically going to be estate building, but you're going to acquire the improvements to your estate via winning a trick.
Fascinating.
I think Brian Boru is a great game. I don't know if you've had a chance to play it. It's Piers Sylvester, I believe.
Yeah.
I would have to check that. And I actually had Parlor in development before I played this game, but he and I were like on the same wavelength because he's using trick-taking to get Euro type resources from winning a trick. And then he does some area control in the UK. And I'm not doing area control, but what I am doing is estate construction.
Okay.
So one of the things I really wanted to do, because Obsession was successful, was to add art. A lot of people have said about Obsession, real nice flow, love building up my estate. I'd like to see some art on those, like playing Race for the Galaxy or playing other types of games where I can see what I'm talking about. And quite honestly, when I was a rookie, I couldn't afford the art. And because my family has artists in it, my dad was an accomplished artist. I have a policy where I'm not going to use AI. I'm supporting artists. And with this obsession success, I found an artist in Warsaw, Poland named Janek Lipinski, who's brilliant. And so in Parlor, when I talk about building up your estate through trick-taking, those cards are going to have art on them. And I could show you a little bit of that art to give you sort of a sneak peek.
If you could, that'd be amazing. Yeah, please do.
Let me see if I can operate technology here.
You should be able to share your screen.
Share the screen. So here's an example of the stateroom. So we have a tile. It's a level 6 prestige tile called a stateroom. And a stateroom was typically where you would have a state dinner where that term comes from. Yep. In politics, we're going to have a state dinner. And so that's the piece of art that's been created.
It's beautiful.
And what I would do is I would construct a very bad reference for my brilliant artist, Janek. And he would then generate prototypes. And I would say things like, well, we got to remove that. Or he would have a beautiful room with no candles. And I said, well, we don't have any overhead lighting.
Yeah, we need lights.
You need candles. So this is what a candelabra looks like. And I would explain it to him. So it's a collaborative project. And he generates where we get to a final piece like this, where when you're bidding for the stateroom, you're looking at this particular tile, if you will, or card. It's actually going to be cards. Yep. And you can see what you're bidding on. And that adds to the thematic flavor, because nothing will have the thematic coherence of Obsession as far as the reputation governing who will be seen with you and where you can have the courage to host a big party and whether your servants are actually available and you've built up your domestic staff. That's going to be Obsession's calling card.
Yeah.
This one is going to lean into visuals, because there's no way you can make a trick-taking process thematic. That doesn't make any sense.
But I'm sitting here. Yeah, I'm sitting here now thinking, what are those conversations sat behind that? Around that table, there's people chatting away.
Right.
And I'm visualizing in my head, what were they chatting about? They've come from an event I've held in Obsession. They're now sat around that table. And what's the gossip or the latest news coming out of the family or friends?
Exactly.
That's a great one as well.
You are my unpaid assistant as a gamer, because you got to fill in the blanks. Here, I hope to fill in the blank. This here is the saloon.
Okay.
And a lot of people think it's supposed to be salon, and it's saloons in the West where people are shooting at each other and drinking shots. But no, the saloon originated in manor houses in England. And this is generally a long room where you can have bigger parties. And all this research, which I did research the original rooms, but now I got to research down to what's a standing candelabra look like?
Yeah.
Right?
Wow,
I got to have that. Or some of the other things. What's the posture of a servant that's offering, you might say offering a drink. Well, they didn't serve cocktails in 1862, right? That's not the way it worked. Even though I have a guy there I'm breaking my own rule because it looks like he's serving drinks. But to give you some other looks, it would even get to something like the private study, where you want to capture what it looks like for.
Oh, it's lovely.
Yeah, the gentleman of the house in there consulting plans. What are my tenant rents coming in? And my business manager is going to show up who handles the details. And you can get into the actual sports that are going on. Like I had to research what is cricket.
Have you got cricket? You have got a cricket one.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
What does cricket look like back then? Well, they wore top hats.
That is brilliant. I love the colors.
The officials have the white top hats, and then they have grays versus the blacks, and they wore white.
You're teaching me some history now as well. I didn't know that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a book learner. I had done this one, and I had a gent from Yorkshire, I think, who said you would have the third post in the wicket by 1862. I said, thank you.
Yeah, that's what you need. A few experts.
That's what you need. And there's some which I just love. Probably wouldn't fly today as being a favorite, but when you get to the atmosphere of like a smoking room, my favorite.
Yeah.
It just jumps out of the screen. Actually, that's not even my favorite. I have an earlier rendition I liked a little better. Was it that one? Yeah, I like that one even a little better. We had something in the foreground. And what he does is he takes and he creates layers out of his artwork that is painting, and he digitizes it. So you can see the chair here.
Yeah.
And I had him remove the chair in this one because I wanted to see what it would look like.
Yeah, expanded.
If it opened it up. So I don't want to go too deep on this, but this is a little bit of a passion project. And my hope is somehow to get it into Obsession. I don't know how to do that because the tiles are so small.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking about it. But that's going to be a futures project. Parlor is going to have this art, and it's going to be about a quick game where you can build an estate in 45 minutes because you're playing a trick-taking game.
Yeah, I can see the link between the Obsession, the game, and then the trick-taking piece and the artwork, and I guess having the similar experience of bringing all that experience from the Obsession game without all that artwork into the trick-taking piece.
And I'm going to show you one other thing because there's a method to my madness. Not that I'm trying to, lure people into Obsession the game from Parlor the game, but I'm using the same assets. I'm using the same personalities.
Right.
So, for example, if you get to give me 1 second here, it won't be long. I'm going to get to my Gentry cards. So the same cards are going to be used, but they're going to be constructed differently. This is a screenshot.
Okay.
So these are the same characters with the same flavor text that you have in Obsession.
Yeah.
So I want you to get to know these people because you might be inclined when you get to Obsession to find some familiarity.
Yeah.
But you'll see we've lost certain things, which is we've got the prestige rating, which is actually how the suits are constructed.
Right.
But now you've got the addition of these icons, and you can see a horse and an architectural symbol, and it reflects the interest of the character based upon their flavor text. And if you play that card into a trick where the room actually is about architecture or about ride to hound.
Okay, got you. Yes.
You get a coin, which is a victory point, and it's the Victorian coins that I've made in the characters expansion. So there's a lot of synergy between the two because I didn't want to run away from the affection for Obsession in my next game, but I wanted it to be a new game. So
we always introduce the characters as well. So there's some that we've all become fondly attached to their names. So the fact that there's a crossover and those same characters will appear in Parlor, that's a really nice touch.
Yes. And then we'll go to the space. It won't be Obsession in space. It'll be something totally different. I'll do that probably in 2026.
Wow. That is a lot. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those images and a piece of background. It's And that's Q1 next year, or when do you think we might see?
And that would be a year from now.
A year from now. So kick off the Kickstarter about a year from now. Yeah.
I I'm re-engaging my playtesting.
Yeah.
And we're going to see if it goes, hopefully like I think it goes, then I can move pretty quickly because I have all the assets.
Yeah, of course you have.
And we just need to do that. But the last playtesting round, they said it was a little thin on content. So adding the synergy of the interests of the characters with the type of rooms that they're visiting in the trick seemed to be the way to sort of elevate trick taking to almost a little bit of a Euro flavor to it.
Yeah.
And bring the two together.
Fantastic. I can't wait. Well, can't wait to see and hear more about that. To wrap up then, as this is a bit of a celebration of 100 episodes, what do you listen to podcasts? Do you have time for podcasts in your life?
I do situationally. I'm my only employee and my boss is a jerk. So he doesn't give me a lot of time.
There's no time for breaks, yeah.
But I do situationally when I hear about things, or if I get recorded, I want to make sure I wasn't a total disaster. But sometimes I have, one of the reasons I have 500 games is because when I hear of an interesting mechanic, I've got a business write-off. I just have the game come in.
That's what I need in my life.
So everybody should. You can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
So what were we talking about?
Podcast.
The podcast.
Time. Yeah.
Podcast. So when there's a game that's particularly interesting to me because it's helping my thought processes, there's nothing new under the sun. And there's great designers that they go on you take a look at Arc Nova. That's really standing on the shoulders of a lot of different games.
It is. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that's not to
take away. No. Yeah.
Give credit to that gentleman. So and for that reason, I will look at podcasts, and I will tell you for a small publisher, podcasts are critical. I can go back and point out, and I think you guys had a role as well, point out people who got on Obsession early. And the podcasters have their loyal followings, and those people, I just listened to, for example, a podcast from 3 Minute Board Games on his top 100 games. And I'm honored that he has me, I think, at 8. I think he does that for his wife, who loves Obsession. Just kidding, Jay. But anyway, eight games went into my Amazon basket watching that because I saw something and I said, I need it. I need it. Again, I got a little luxury because it's a business write-off.
Yeah, it's all research.
That's what podcasts do, is that they take, I know what you like, and if you say, this is amazing, I'm intrigued because we're on the same ground as a starting place.
Yeah, that's definitely what we pick up, is both smaller publishers see a lot of value from the podcast, I guess, community. And then, I often know that if I've talked about certain games, some of my friends or listeners definitely go, well, you've liked this one, then I like that one, so this game's going to be for me. So I guess the influence, or the trust in what people are saying is valuable.
Right, and there's sometimes you need to go a little deeper. You're thinking about it, because before I could be a little wasteful in acquiring games, if I'm going to spend a chunk of money on a game, I'm going to research a little more. I mean, I've always been one to not even read the Kickstarter content, but immediately go to BGG and go to the forums and drop down and go for the videos and see what they say, in order to get a sense of whether I'm going to go ahead and gamble on a crowdfunding project.
And what's been the game of the year for you so far? We're into October. Is there any new games that have caught your attention?
It's been a year where with the move and the Kickstarter and everything that's going on, I've probably only played 30 games, 30 or 40 different games this year, which is way low. But I would have to say it's 2, and they're established games. Before I moved, playing Pandemic Legacy, the top rated one, really convinced me that I got to do a Legacy Obsession one day.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just so compelling.
You can see the Obsession thing working with the story and the backstory, and you start with nothing, and
your family members' favors would be blank.
Yes.
And you would start adding your stickers for your favorites. But I could never do when they say tear the card up.
No.
I can't turn the car up and
I always put them in the box, so I keep them underneath.
And then too many.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what?
Too many bones.
Okay.
So
out of shot, but yes.
Yeah. I have a brother that liked cooperative games, and so I was getting a lot of time in with him. I was going to be leaving him in Ohio, and we'd see each other less. And we got going on those 2 cooperative games. Too Many Bones is a brilliant design. I think it has some metas in it that lead to exhausting the difficulty.
Yes.
Once you get really good.
Yep.
But then there's other ways to make it harder. But then now you start to get into that problem. I talk with a universal rule book and all those extra boxes and characters and everything, and it starts to get a little overwhelming. And
that is a great example, because that's when I do pick up and go, how many characters have I got? How many trays? How many different sheets? All the symbologies.
Looking for the dice.
So much. The dice.
I mean, even the core rules. To get those down.
Yeah, it did.
But so anyway, but we played the core plus a couple, and just a brilliant design. It's a level of commitment that I didn't really even bring. I gave them to my nephew and my brother, and I said, "You guys run with it." And I've just got the base here if I ever want to pull it out. But
there's a lot of content
this year, and I've got a lot in my shelf of shame. So I'm looking forward to settling down a little bit, but that would be the 2.
Okay, amazing. Both great choices, and I say, Too Many Bones is on my doesn't get played enough list. Just it's just so much content. Okay, thank you, Dan, for joining us.
My pleasure. It's great to talk.
PJ will be PJ's going to hear a lot of content about Obsession. I can tease him with all this.
Yeah,
we'll definitely have you back on the podcast if you come back again when you've got some more to share on both the stuff in next year and Obsession Legacy, whenever that is ready.
It looks like we can make it an annual fall visit.
Yes, we'll do that. That would be amazing.
Probably be up against Parlor next year, and
that'd be fantastic.
I always love to get the word out in the UK, since I've never been there, and yet I've been cheeky enough to create a game.
Yeah, you need to come over. Maybe try and hit the UK Games Expo, and then we can give you a tour of some other stately homes, and give you a fix.
Yeah,
cool.
Looking at those bad American imitations, it's just not the same thing.
It's just not the same. Okay, well, thanks, Dan. Thanks for everything you've shared with us today.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Oh my God, I'm trying not to be mad at you.
I tried to get you there.
You did.
I did give some clues.
Okay, that is true. But I was thinking to myself, I knew that Dan was moving to Utah, which he talked about, and I was like, he's going to be too busy. There's no way. We did have a slight
error when Dan forgot he'd moved and told me his time zone was 5 hours. And when I dialed into the call, he wasn't there, and he went, "Yeah, I'm on time." And he goes, "I'm 7 hours." He'd forgotten the time zone difference.
I just want to say, Parlor.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I love a trick taking game. So it was such a privilege to see the cards, and the artwork that is coming.
Yep.
So keep an eye on that. And I can't remember this week. Whether it was in the show or not, but Dan said he'll come back.
Okay.
I guess in another year's time to talk about
if we get him on. I don't care how we do this, but I swear, one of our episodes in the future has to be titled Hurricanes and Pirates.
Okay, yeah. When he said that, I was like, okay, pirates. And then I was going to say about having the coins as doubloons and going down a whole pirate thing. That's why they were raiding the ships. But anyway, I forgot. And I mention it now. But
that is fantastic.
So we've done it again. We've mentioned Obsession in another episode. So
we did.
We start off the hundreds with 100% of all the episodes in 100
That's right.
are mentioned Obsession. Now, you asked the Instagram followers of Meeple to Meeple and asked me anything. Ask us anything.
Right.
Did anyone ask us anything, PJ? Because
they did.
They did. Okay.
They did.
I haven't seen these, so this is my surprise.
So we launched our YouTube channel. It's not just episode 100, right? It's
episode 1 of YouTube. Yeah.
It is, yeah. And so as a part of that, we talked about planning and upfront. It was like, do a poll, ask us anything. And so we said, hey, if you ask us, we're going to read your question and answer it right here on our show. So the first one was by Great Golly, It's Molly.
Great name.
You can create any kind of board game convention. What do you want it to be? What are the details? Where is it located? And what is the theme?
It's located on an aircraft carrier, mid-Atlantic. Wasn't that, we said that one early episode was some crazy idea about me in the middle, but I wasn't a serious answer. But
I think I really love the fact that you upgraded us to an aircraft carrier. I think originally it was a battleship.
Oh, was it battleship? Oh, we've gone bigger. We've got a lot more people to host now on both sides.
Absolutely. I think the reason is that you and I can't afford a yacht, but we could probably afford a decommissioned naval vessel.
But I guess location is a challenge. We had Cajun Con, which we're going to talk about in a bit.
Yeah.
I think if I had a convention, it has to be more about the playing than the buying and selling.
Yeah.
Definitely bring and buy. I like people to come and trade games, but it has to be full of, our favorite people, gamers.
Yep.
I guess like Cajun Con, but just bigger, with a bigger kitchen. For anyone who was at Cajun Con, they'll know the kitchen was the size of a postage stamp. And then we learned there was another kitchen around the corner, which was like 15 times the size. But by that point, it was too late. So yeah, you need space for food and catering. Yeah. I mean, location's a challenge. We'd have to
It is a challenge.
Either we need to have... Could we run two at the same time?
I mean...
Could we have meeple to meeple and live stream in?
Live stream in.
Maybe
I think that would be really cool. That would be cool. So we have
a US and UK con on the same day, connecting gamers across the Atlantic.
So the challenge then becomes, as you and I already know, and we talked about it in the first, time zones.
We could do like a 20. If we got another set of gamers like in Asia, we could do a 24-hour marathon where we're literally the sun. The gaming convention starts early hours in Asia, comes over to Europe. We host it, and then we pass the baton. If anyone can play the whole way through all three conventions, they get a Meeple to Meeple badge, which is 24 hours of gaming.
We can live stream
all three
on our YouTube.
3
channel.
Cameras. Right, that's my answer. Right,
I like
that. That needs to happen. Right,
we could make that happen.
That's relatively straightforward. I'm just going to make a note. 24 hours.
24 hours.
Sunrise to sunset.
I mean, they kind of do that with Extra Life already, which is a charity event. So,
this is our event.
But this is our event. Yes,
bridging
Meeple to Meeple
around the world,
which is our tagline.
Good question.
So how about this one? She had a second question.
Ooh.
What upcoming game are you looking forward to on Kickstarter?
On Kickstarter,
she did say. She did also say
Kickstarter.
And why is it Raising Rabbits? There's an entire story behind that.
There's a story there that I've not researched.
No, it's not. Her partner is the designer of Raising Rabbits, and he's fixing to launch on Kickstarter, so that's why. So she was taking a jab at me, but I thought the question was good. I'm curious to know, Gareth.
I haven't got much. I mean, the only thing I have currently backed is Speakeasy, Vital.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I've backed. And there isn't, if I look at what I've saved, what have I got saved? We've got State Raise the Realm. That goes live Tuesday, the 15th.
Yep.
I've got the Raising Robots Friends expansion, which is it's quite a nice Wingspan-esque kind of game.
Right,
There's Revenant, by Mind Clash Games. Looks pretty good. Like got some S and highlights.
That's on my list. That was my list. That is my answer right there.
There's a game
Revenant
that popped up. I Made You a Mixtape by Dan Hughes. That I can show my camera. You can see the kind of artwork. It's kind of 80s retro, and I don't know whether this is. I guess it's the same in the US, but he used to make mixtapes in the 80s.
Yeah,
that popped up recently.
So
I don't know much about it apart from it looked great.
So we should say that for our millennial audience, back when we were younger, than I
am young.
To express our love or interest in a girl, we would make them a mixtape.
And I made mixtapes myself. That's all I ever did. That was it. On a Sunday afternoon, stop, start, stop, start. They were good days.
Honestly,
anyway, what have you got?
My list is Revenant by Mind Clash. That's the one game. It's the one game I'm looking forward to. Just fantastic. And I guess, of course, Tend by Ivy Studios, which is coming up.
As Becky and Craig, I'm going to get to see that.
Roll and write, scratch, and come on. What?
Scratch and sniff. There's no sniffing. Remember Scratch and Sniffs? Do you remember that?
I do.
I mean, the non-Kickstarter, I am desperate to play SETI from Check Games. That is the number one game I am post-Essen. I'm desperate to play.
But the question was Kickstarter. So
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
But SETI.
Good question. I mean, double question now.
Okay, so our friend Jonathan from Re-Engineer the Game, he asked us, how do we get ideas for our episodes?
PJ, you do the work. I do the tech, you do the work.
I do.
I think we're probably going to cover this in a bit, because I was reflecting on 100 episodes. And there's we've been in a bit of a journey. We've had episodes with designers, we've had episodes with guests. I guess we talked a bit about guests with Craig and Becky.
Yeah.
And then we've done things about time of year. So I guess it's been a bit about seasonality. I mean, conventions seems to be milestones that happen through the year. And then I guess we've had one of my favorite episodes recently was actually the AI one, just because I thought it was a really good discussion.
Yes.
With Christopher, who's an artist in the industry. So it's worth having a listen. But yeah, apart from that, I think we just chat, don't we, over Instagram? And then you often throw together the last 10 you've shaped. Yeah. But if anyone wants to hear anything, wants to hear certain topics, do put them in the comments.
Please.
Like and subscribe, and then you don't use it again. I've said it twice. Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
I've not said it yet.
You're
holding it for the end.
Yeah. Make it special.
So the way that I get ideas when I'm planning is it's either because I'm at a convention and it's based on conversations I'm having with other gamers, and I'm like, that would be a really good podcast episode. Sometimes, and this is true. So someone asked me, this is not one of the questions, but someone had asked me, hey, how do I get to be a guest on your podcast? I was like, just tell us you want to be on and what topic you want to talk about. Because that's what we'll do. That's it. Just it's got to be board game related, but hell, even AI is.
And no more than
right. No more than 3. Yeah. So that's usually what I do. It's either pressing topics, or it's just seasonality, like you said, because we do. Which I guess we're going to have to do Halloween pretty soon because it's coming.
Yeah, we do. We better think of maybe it's in fancy dress this time because we can be seen. I mean, you can just go around your garden, man. You've been ready for like 13 days, and we haven't even. Oh no, there is a pumpkin out, as in a little fluffy one. There we go. One single pumpkin. Don't you push our spritz. We can't celebrate Halloween until
Halloween.
You could do it live from your garden. You could do it live from your garden, couldn't you? You could just go and surround yourself with Ghostbusters and.
Yep, sure could. But they wouldn't be lit up, so it would be dark, and you
could bring them inside and put them behind you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
that's a little much.
Moving on.
Moving on. So our good friend John from Tri-Win Games, you know we can always count on him.
Yeah, always count on John.
This is what
thank you, John. Just thank you, John, for standing in.
Yes.
On numerous occasions.
Numerous occasions.
Yeah.
Here's the question: if time and money and space were no object, What meeple to meeple thing would you do? What meeple to meeple? Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about space. Maybe we could have a rocket.
Yeah.
You know, my question I used to ask on Meeple Mondays.
I remember that.
You go into space, you've got a rocket, and you're going to play games at Space Station. What do you do?
And you can only bring 3 games.
3 games, and you could take some friends. And there was there is space, there is gravity, and there was I about to remember all the different things that people added in.
Yeah.
But that'd be quite cool. I mean, we could take some friends. I mean, I think today space rocket's gone up and it's been caught with some tweezers. If you saw that earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we had no time and we had space, then I'd go and play some board games orbiting the planet. And we could play Obsession. There we go.
And we could play Obsession. I think for me, it would be to be able to purchase a yacht.
To go and do a convention in the middle of the Atlantic.
Well, how cool would it be is if we had a yacht or we had some sort of a sea-going vessel that, had
dinghy.
Meeple to Meeple. Right, a dinghy, no. But we could go to England and we could play Obsession at a manor house, which I got to do, which was pretty cool. But we could go to different places. Like, how cool would it be to go to Asia and, go to China
so
and
we're going to retire
Garden
and just sail around the world in our yacht.
Yeah, and play games on location, in the location the game is inspired by.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Or just get a TARDIS and we could just, time travel.
That's true.
Good question, John. Thank you.
And then bring your own dice. He asked, if you could change one thing about the general board game community, what would you change? That's a good question. That's a PJ level question. I like those questions.
I don't know if I mean, the community is diverse.
Well, what we learned is that there's no one board game community, right?
Yeah. Well, we're saying
each
YouTubers,
platform has their own.
There's their own group, whether you're on TikTok, Instagram, X.
Yep.
Because I mostly live in the Instagram community. Excuse me. I don't think I'd change much because whenever we do meet up with people, it's the diversity of the games that we play and who we are that makes it so relevant and fun. What would I change? I mean, like I say, everyone needs to like Obsession, but that doesn't feel very fair, does it?
That doesn't feel fair.
Everyone needs to enjoy an 8-hour game of Twilight Imperium.
Okay.
Mandated. That's a rule. And I don't know. I don't think I'd change anything. I'm quite happy with how things are. How about you? Would you change anything?
I would change something. So I love what you and your fellow countrymen do with your little gatherings, similar to Cajun Con, Gen Con with a J, Scoot Con, all those little cons where you get together and you can bring your children. There's a playground for them to keep entertained. There's a kitchen for you to bring and make your own food. So it's potluck. We don't do a lot of that here in the U.S. Like, it's got to be an officially sanctioned convention, right? That has vendors and badges and everything. I'd like to see more.
Well, the meeple to meeple, sunset to sunrise would be it.
True. That's true.
Do people not hire out? I mean, we'd call them community centres. You might call them. I don't know what's the equivalent of, like, you came to Cajun Con. It was a small community centre with a couple of halls. You must have places like that.
There are not a lot of places like that.
No,
there aren't a lot of them. So basically, it would be like a permanent structure on a park, some sort of city park, and that does exist. But I mean, if we could fit 50,000 people in it.
I'm thinking like a basketball, and that's about it. I mean, I'm not thinking, sports hall. I'm not thinking, some 50,000 people. That'd be great. I mean, that's,
it would be. The reality is, I would just like to see. I would like to see more. Let's get together, bring food and game, and not because. So one of the problems is well, I got kids and I can't travel with them, or food is perishable. I mean, is it just, you know what, y'all all come to Springfield, we're all going to do this, we're going to have a whole day of gaming here, and food will be provided, and it'll be great.
Maybe because the UK is so, we're much closer to each other.
I think that's part of it.
That might be it.
I think so. But
yeah,
that's the thing.
The amount of food is insane. I mean, it is a feast. Feast of food.
Feast of food. So
feast
that's all
of
the
food. And those are good questions. I've enjoyed those.
Yeah, they were good.
So we talk about our favourite bits. I guess 100 episodes in.
100 episodes.
I mean, just a couple of highlights. What episodes are your favourites, or what things, or what topics floated your boat the most?
I really enjoyed talking to Matt and Zara a year ago. I just thought when they were just launching Kavango, that was just an incredible conversation. And I think it was the first one that was kind of a serious topic.
It was, and they were the first designers on the show. So it's the first episode 52. I've got it there as Matt and Zara is high up on my list. And now it's in the wild. In fact, you sent me a photograph of it in the wild in a shop.
Yeah,
which I have yet to see in a shop. So
and
prowling,
it's right here.
Right. I mean, who would have? What product placement? You've done it again. Obsession on one side of your head and Kavango on the other, and you've got Botany above. I mean, they've been on the show. What else you got hiding away? I hadn't even noticed. What's behind your head? Is there anything behind your head?
So behind my head is DeVere Games.
Oh, what a collection!
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Mostly DeVere.
Yeah, good. So, they've not been on the show, but they should be on the show as a publisher.
You're working on that. I'm working on that.
Yeah, no, I thought the Matt and Zara was a good one.
Yeah.
We spoke to them for like another hour, like we were saying.
We did.
And then we've met them. They came to Cajun Con.
They did, which was incredible.
Which was amazing. So there's not many people who've met both of us in the same place at the same time.
That's true. Although that number has grown.
It has grown. It's still small.
It is. It is.
Still small.
It's still small.
Go on.
I really enjoyed my conversation with Alex and Hannah.
Yeah.
That was really, it was just so good. It was just so good to talk about just their perspective on being both gamers and content creators in the UK. I mean, I don't know. That was just.
I had the same with when I was talking to Kristen and Laura in episode 96, not that long ago. It was similar. You did the UK content creators. I covered the US. Back to the way 3 worked.
That's it.
I mean, Dan Hallagan was 57, not far after Matt and Zara, but that's a good highlight.
That was a good one.
After talking about it so much. I think we've had about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 members of the board game community. I might have forgotten a few. Osier was episode 27, right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Diz, we had Craig, we had Dennis, we had the infamous episode 69. With Nick. Which went a bit chaotic. Right up to recently, we had that really good episode with Tara, 98, when we talked about her mission to play the twins. What did you call it?
Parallel roll and writes.
Yeah, so where there's a board game and a roll and write version of the same game. And that made me buy, after avoiding Forest Shuffle for quite a while, that's now become nearly one of our most played games this year. In about 4 weeks. I am rubbish, but my wife is amazing. Which is why if he keeps, we're going to play Forest Shuffle. Oh, really? Of course. Yes, dear, we are. Yes, we are. But she's really liking that, and we've already added the Alpine and Woodlands on its way. Woodlands on its way. That's pre-ordered.
What's interesting is that Laura is known as the Forest Shuffle Queen.
Yeah, I'm not going to attempt to play a game of Forest Shuffle with her yet. Yeah. I need more practice. I'm clearly not very good at that game.
No, but
I think I'm doing well, and then
you need to connect your wife and Laura together on BGA.
Then that'd be perfect. Yeah, they can show me how it's done.
There you go.
Other episodes, I've always enjoyed the convention soundbite ones. So technically it's always a challenge because we use mics and the convention's really loud, so it's really hard to get a decent sounding episode. But whenever we hear from members of the community on the show, if it's like 5 seconds or 30-second clip that you've recorded, I've recorded at conventions, it's just great to hear people having fun at conventions. So they're good. I said about the AI one. That was interesting.
That was a good conversation. You know, what's interesting about the sound bites is you and I approach them differently. You record them there on the floor.
Oh yeah. I'm just you get sent to you afterwards.
Yeah. So that the sound is cleaner. Right?
Yeah, I'm just there. I think I've got a better idea for the next con. We'll see whether it's any better. I'm going to put them inside a bubble and record here. A portable sound booth is what I really need.
That's what you need. Yeah.
We've had a few times and I haven't been around. I don't think there's only once, PJ. You've only missed one show in 100.
Well,
I think
technically that's right.
And I missed about 5.
I was not present for the conversation you had with Dan.
Well, that's today, but you are here. That's a bonus.
True. It's true.
We've said, thanks to John Trywin Games for stepping in a number of times. We've had Adam and Jerry, I think, covered.
Yes.
At some point earlier in the year.
So I want to say, let's not, like John, there were 2 episodes where John stepped in for you. I messaged him like an hour before our normal record time.
Legend.
And he said yes. Like, I didn't even give him
a topic.
Notice.
Just turn up.
He's like, I'll be there. And he's always showed up, and I appreciate that. There was the episode with Jerry and Adam was when we were at Tennessee Game Days.
That's right, yeah.
That episode was recorded while we were in my hotel room. I had the microphone in between us, and I learned the reason why you need headsets. Yeah.
In mobile studio. Yeah, mobile recording studio. With a sound booth. Recap episodes. Those have always been quite popular. So when we've talked about, like, I think the episode we did beginning of the year, where it was reflect and
rewind, or
rewind something, where we talked about the last year and then look forward to this year, which we'll have to listen to quite soon because this year is rapidly coming to an end, and see what we said. See what we said we were going to do.
That's true.
And then early on, we used to do something called Top 5, 2 + 2 + 1, and which was you choose 2 games, I chose 2 games, and then we tried to find a game that together. So we picked a theme. I don't know, roll and writes. We tried to talk about 2 things that we both love, but we hadn't played. Those are ones I'd like to try and do a few more. Not go back to massively, but there must be more themes that we should do. But that's my reflection. And of course, Cajun Con, episode 75.
Yeah.
When we recorded together.
Yeah. Together. That was the best.
It did make life easier, didn't it? It was so much opposite each other. It was anyway.
Until
reminiscing.
Oh, I know, right? It was one of the few days where it wasn't overcast or raining. The sun came out while we were recording.
That's true. Yeah, it was nice. It was lovely morning.
Because Katie and your cat
were in the conservatory.
Right in our view in the conservatory. Yep. You just put my wife in front of a cat, and she was
quite happy. She was quite happy.
She was. Yeah.
What about so here we are, episode 100. What about looking forwards?
Ooh,
have you got the next 10 plans, or we? Well, you've already recorded 101. Ooh, there we go. I've now only done 50% of the episodes in the 100 because I didn't do 101 because you just like, I'm going to record, and that's recorded. I think it works though. I personally don't think we should stress about it.
I'm not. No.
I think we just make it work. So 101 is recorded.
Yeah, so 101 is recorded. That's going to be an interesting conversation. We go back to the play testing, which, by the way, was a really cool episode where we talked about play testing.
Yeah, we're very different.
I got a copy of a game from Weird Giraffe Games, and the designer, and I didn't know this at the time, the founder of Weird Giraffe Games, Carla Kopp, she's going to be our guest, and she and I had a really good conversation. So 101 is in the bag.
So 102 and onwards, we'd better work out what we're doing. I mean, it's cool. I mean, we've got video episodes. Like and subscribe.
So I've got interest, but no hard commitments from designers, from gamers, you name it. We just got to start lining up.
We've just got to get a date lined up for one of the most popular word team games.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Probably in the world. I think if top, probably number 1 or 2 word games, word association games. Interview.
Yes.
Just need to get a date. That could be very soon.
It could be and should be within the next 2 or 3 episodes. So
I've got convention season. Have you got any conventions coming up? You haven't got anything before Christmas? Well, you were going to try.
Christmas.
No,
I was going to try, but it didn't happen. So
doesn't happen. So, I have Essen 2025 as a mission.
Do you?
It's in the diary because it's later next year. This year was really early.
It was.
Next year works better for me.
Okay.
So, I've said I'm going, as I've never been, which is shocking, really.
I think that at some point we need to record an episode at a convention.
Yeah. We need to come to UKGE.
Why do I always have to go to England?
It's because you love England. There you go. And if I come to America, I've got to bring 3 people with me. It's cheaper.
Do you?
Yeah, I have to bring the family. My kids won't allow me to come to America without bringing them with me. Unless I can. Well, we had the boat, so I could just sail over. The boat would be good.
The boat would be good.
I could do a pedalo, just get there in 200 days.
Yep.
Obviously, more guests. Anyone listening wants to join the show, just DM us.
Yeah.
Or write in the comments. Always welcome to come on the show.
Tell us when you want to come on and what do you want to talk about.
Yeah.
And
anything. Whether that's game concepts, designing your own game.
Yep.
Being on a podcast. Being a TikToker. Whatever the topic might be.
Being an influencer, content creator, whatever. Traveling to meet gamers around the world. Whatever you want to talk about. We're not opposed. We don't shy away from the difficult questions.
We've got a logo change coming up.
We do. Which is waiting for comment from you.
Oh, is it?
It is.
I have note to self. PJ has told me something and I've clearly missed in my tardiness of reading the Meeple to Meeple notebook.
Launching a YouTube episode or launching a YouTube channel and it being episode 100, this required a lot of planning. We've had a lot of stuff going on. It's been.
I mean, I've got more notes than normally. There's a card like this, and I've usually got about 5 things, and I've got a card and a piece of paper.
Wow. You don't have a red card, do you? I see you got a yellow card. That's not good.
Yellow cards. No, there's no red cards.
Okay, good.
I did think about having a red card to hold up if I make an error, so when I do editing, it was easier to spot.
Oh.
Because audio, when we used to make if we made errors on the podcast, I'll just do a clap and then I'd see this big spike on the audio. We'll see how editing is later. I'm hoping. And
then audio
this would be relatively.
Now it automatically cuts the pauses and kind of
AI is there.
Yeah.
Maybe I should ask AI. For those who haven't seen the show before, we've had this little segment where we just ask AI to give us some inspiration, and it worked quite well, hasn't it? I mean, we find that
it has.
The AI is generally framed back to our conversation we had with Christopher about being a tool. It's been quite a useful tool to find out.
And for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. We're glad to have you. So this is technically episode 1 on the channel, but we have 100 episodes or 99 episodes that you can listen to on your favorite podcast streaming service.
So it's come back. I asked it for 100 episodes, and it's come back with 20. And I'm just going to pick 3.
Okay. Sure.
Underrated hidden gems. I reckon between us, we've got some hidden gems. Okay. Particularly, we've had friends over recently where they've been looking at the collection, and there's so many games that, have been in my life for 10, 15 years. But if you're a new gamer, no idea. And I was like, classic. So we could definitely go and talk about some of those. I mean, not even hidden gems.
We could do that.
Evolution of board games, history of board games. You like
Yes.
ancient civilizations. We can cover
I
that.
do.
And I love a Civ game, so maybe we could tie those two together. Meeple design, discuss the art and physical components of board game. But we could delve into the whole Meeple logo,
Right.
and that, the whole copyright piece around the Meeple artwork currently. There's more, but there's 3. So we were going to wrap up talking about some of the games we've talked about. You've got that list.
Yeah, so this is kind of like this is Meeple to Meeple's top 5 games, is what this is.
But what we've talked about, you've analysed every episode, you've counted how many minutes per episode.
Absolutely.
We talked about these games. Good. I like that.
Yes.
Good analysis.
And I think the first one we don't have to say anything about, and that's Obsession.
Yeah. I mean, we've segued that into talking about, I think we talked about Nemesis, which might be on your list, but I think somehow we featured
Nemesis
Obsession
is
in that.
Number 2
Meeple
to Meeple game.
There's 2 extremes, Obsession
Number 2
and Nemesis. Maybe we need to smash those games together and have a game of Nemesis inside the stately home.
Ooh.
Well, right, there's a world.
So that is a whole new world. The number 3 Meeple to Meeple game is Rococo.
Yeah, we had an episode on that. Now I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember that. Yeah,
in the 60s, I'm going to say.
Sure. Yep. Episode.
I forgot about that episode.
Rococo.
Yeah, we did the whole. Yeah, that was a good episode.
Because that was a good episode. That was a great episode.
Go.
So much, so beautiful. We recently played that again. That game is so good. It doesn't get enough love.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it's a cracking game.
How about Kootenai?
Oh, now that was the beginning. That was the end. The beginning of 2024. That game hit my table. I think I got it for Christmas. And
you know
that is a lovely game.
You did get it for Christmas, and you talked about it a lot. And so Katie and I were trying to find it, right? And then eventually we found it when we came back from Cajun Con.
Yeah. Because I played it at Cajun Con, so it was definitely April time still. It was still being played, March, April time.
Yep.
Yeah, that hasn't hit the table in the last 3 or 4 months. Mostly because when I was at UK Games Expo, Czech Games had a stand with these lovely purple T-shirts, and they said I couldn't have one. I really liked that T-shirt, but it was for demo people only. Maybe I should try to get that next year. But that's a good game.
You should demo. That's what you should go work. Yeah,
I did ask the other week about whether there's any expansions coming.
Yeah,
and I was told it was too early to discuss.
Oh,
which means yes.
That's a definite yes.
It's a definite yes. Yeah.
And then number 5. This is the number 5 Meeple to Meeple game, Darwin's Journey.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot as well.
We did. And did an entire episode on Darwin's Journey.
They're all pretty heavy games, though.
They are.
There are, for our listeners, there are episodes on 2-player games and lightweight games and family games. Nemesis Obsession. Coco's midweight.
It's midweight.
Horror's midweight.
And Darwin's Journey is heavyweight.
That's a bit heavyweight.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do like my heavy games.
Yep.
A really popular episode was our Lacerda one early on, just thinking about heavy games. You talked about
the gallery
as a designer. Really popular episode, really early on, like episode 12 or 13. If you're into heavier games or want to know about more of the complex games, go and check that episode out.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
That's worth it. That's worth it. So yeah, check it out. That's the top 5 Meeple to Meeple games.
I wonder
for the first 100 episodes.
I wonder what episode 200's top 5 games would be.
The real question is, will Obsession remain our favorite game?
Yeah, well, most talked about game.
Right.
What we should do for Christmas is our, the whole top 10. What is our top 10 personal favorite games, and see where Obsession ends up. Because we talk about it a lot as a channel. And it's a really popular game in our group. But I'd be interested to see where, if I did top 10 games as I stand today, I mean, it would be in there for sure. I'm not sure what number one. I'm not sure what number 1 is.
I don't know. I want to finish off with an important stat. So the reason why we haven't played Coot and Horror in a while is because we are at 97.7% of our entire collection. How much of your collection have you played this year?
Please bear with me as I boot up the all-time stats.
97.7% of our collection this year has been played once. We have 6 games left to play this year.
So if I look at my all-time stats of all the games that we own and of what we've played, we're on 80%. If I look at all the base games we've played this year, we're on 17, which is bad because I think other years we've been in the 20s.
Now, you understand that the objective is to play every game in your collection once for the calendar year.
Yeah, I've never played that game. I'm just going for every 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No. I mean, that 80% though has got some games which are in my pile to just sell. You know, they've not hit the table now, which means they're never going to get played.
So the beauty of this, the beauty of doing this,
it's a good thing to do. And we talked about it only a week ago.
Did you?
Yeah, as in me and my wife. Yeah,
nice.
Me and Carrie sat there and said, we've got a lot of games you haven't played. And we have been working through them. But then, this weekend, we played new games.
Yeah.
Well, new games. People come around with other games. You're like, let's play other games. We had Owen, who designed Fame and Fable, which will hit Kickstarter next year.
Yeah, I saw
he
some
was
of
at Essen,
pictures.
and he was at UK Games E, and it's beautiful artwork. He's the artist and he's the designer. So that was yesterday. So that was a whole 2 hours.
There you go.
So I've ticked off a game, but it's not in my collection.
So I'm proud to say, and if anyone follows me on Instagram,
6 to go.
That is good. 6 games left. We played My Father's Work this morning, and we unlocked a whole new ending.
Oh, you hadn't seen?
Because there's
yeah, that's good. Good work.
Yeah.
So what 6 games are left? Are they heavy or are they walk in the park? Or we took out Twilight Imperium, 8 hours?
No, most of them are Halloween themed that we reserve for October. Yeah, so like Mysterium, Night Cage, what else? For some reason, Destinies hasn't been played yet this year, so I need to get that to the table. But yeah, we did.
You could do one a week.
Oh yeah. So Katie wants us to play 100% of our games by Halloween, so that November and December we can just play whatever we want, whenever we want.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good mission. I mean, we were trying to do the A to Z, and I think we're on J. But where we got Diz is playing A to Z, but they're playing every game that's A and every game that is B and every game they own is C. So it's not just play one. We're playing the one letter at a time,
right?
But you can't go past like J until you played a J. So whether you've played a K doesn't count until you get there.
I do want to do a shout out. The very first game that you and I played in person at your table.
What was it?
Do you remember?
No, I don't.
It was Let's Go to Japan by Josh Wood.
Yes,
it was. AG.
Yeah, it just arrived. You've got a copy now. Because
I've got a copy.
Yeah.
And Josh is supposed to come on. We just haven't worked out the schedule.
Yeah, that's a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that did well at Essen from what I saw as well. Yeah, it's only just hit UK, game shops.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's only last maybe a month ago that I saw it pop up. And it sold out straight away, so it's still hard to find. It's hard to find as Middle Ages. That's still not available.
That is why I grabbed a copy and pre-ordered it before Gen Con so that I
that'll be in my list of back end of the year. We played that game a lot.
That's a game that we will probably play as soon as Halloween is over.
Yeah.
Like we haven't played it because we still have more games to play as part of our objective. And so then we have November.
Still in shrink.
Yeah. Oh no.
Ages. Oh, you've opened it.
We've played it.
I've played it, but
I
got you. And once you've got into your you've hit your milestone.
Right. So that's the plan. Yeah.
Ryan. Well, that's episode 100 done. Do you want to do the like and subscribe? I know you've been waiting for the ends.
Yeah. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I probably did that wrong, but now Gareth is going to have to put them wherever I pointed.
Yeah, I don't know where they are. Like this way. Now I can just dance.
But you're going to have to figure that out.
I always say thanks for listening, but thanks for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back with episode 101 that PJ is.
That's right.
On his own with no me. It works well, and then I'll be back for 102.
102.
So, thanks to our guests. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to Craig. Thanks to Becky. Yep. Thank you, PJ.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks everyone else. See you soon.
All right.